little delay there. We are taking the bike to the shop to get its maintenance done. I had to drop a new key fob and a new battery in her before I could take her in. You might have seen the video on the battery drop. So, let's talk about the new Indian Dyna. That's right. The Dyna motorcycle, formerly of Harley Davidson, the whole concept of the working man's motorcycle, something a little bit nicer than a starter bike like a Iron 883, but not a $30,000 touring bike that you weren't planning on going long distance consistently anyway. Looks a little sharper. You know, that was a springs on the outside, the same giant engine from the touring bike, so faster because it's lighter with the same amount of torque. Smaller frame, that whole thing, the Dyna. You guys remember that? Before the Dyna became the Softail and the Softail became the Dyna. Harley Davidson decided a couple years back that we're not going to make Dynas anymore. And I hope that that's about to change, but right now that's the deal. And I waited a little bit before I decided to talk about this. And right now there's one more bike that Harley's going to do as a release. And I'm hoping it's like the start of the Dyna resurgence. Especially given the fact that all the guys that like to do wheelies and whatnot, they're all Dyna people. But as of now, they don't make Dynas. Now, I know that if you go through this fine detail, you can come up with reasons why this was a good decision. You know, like, I get the financial thing. But from where I'm sitting, which is, you know, just the customer looking around and going, huh, not sure that was a great idea. If it was like a mediocre idea that would eventually be forgotten, Indian Motorcycles put an end to that. And they decided that they would make a new Indian Chieftain that has a whole range of bikes. So there's a bobbed one with larger high-riser bars like ape hangers, one that's for touring, and then one that's like all the trimmings. It's touring plus like everything extra they can think of. And they put out, you know, shocks on the outside, bigger engine. I'm hoping lighter frame. Otherwise, the whole point's kind of moot in my mind. But I'm not sure on the frame, and I haven't been able to clarify that yet. But they put out this new Indian Chieftain. It, like all the other Indian bikes, is stunningly beautiful. It has a very specific look. I'm wondering if it is going to be modified as much as the old Dynas. And so, you know, my question here is, did Harley Davidson just let another company steal a huge section of their lineup? Because that would not be smart. Because right now, if you want the working man's bike and you want to buy a brand new one because you earned this opportunity, Harley Davidson doesn't make that. You know, Indian Motorcycle makes that. If you're an American and you want to buy that iconic working man's, you know, American-made bike, big V twin, highly modifiable. You can stylize it, really make it look amazing. Lighter frame, springs on the outside, big air-cooled. Yeah, Harley Davidson doesn't make that bike. Indian makes that bike now. I'm hoping that the new bike that Harley Davidson is teasing is going to be the resurgence of that. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, but maybe they've done taken some data and found out that their idea was mediocre at best. That's my hopes, because there were so many cool Dynas out there. Now, you have to understand that the owner of Indian motorcycles, the corporation that owns Indian motorcycles, and the corporation that owns Harley Davidson motorcycles are very, very different, right? Harley Davidson owns Harley Davidson motorcycles, whereas Indian's owned by a larger corporation that makes, off-road vehicles and whatnot. So the issue is that Harley Davidson was losing money for years, while the other company was making money for years, and so trying to take a piece of the American market was just an overall strategy to make more money wherever they could. And as we know, with their previous attempt of Victory Motorcycle, they didn't think that was worth it anymore. They closed Victory up, and later on they started Indian. Now you got to understand, Harley can't do that. If they close up, that's it. There's no more Harley. There's no parent company. They're it. So they have to make the hard decisions. While Harley was doing bad, Indian's parent company was still doing amazing. Indian was like almost breaking even, but all of their other products that they make were, doing extremely well. So I get that. I just wonder, what's going to happen. Now, if I'm in this situation where I want a Dyna, and I know people that are in this situation, and now this new Indian has come out, I can't go to Harley and buy one. I can go to Indian and buy a Dyna, right? It's not technically a Dyna, right? That's a name specific to Harley's product, but you get the idea, right? If I can only buy that at Indian right now, would I go do that that's really, 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 really what I want? And the answer is absolutely not. Now, why is really the thing. God, I haven't gotten out in a while. This is so refreshing. Why would I not do it? Okay, pretty simple actually. Pretty simple reasoning. Because there are actually, even with Indian producing these fresh models, there's way more used Dynas and parts on the off market and through Harley for the Dynas that still exist than there is for these new Indians. And these new Indians aren't even in a close second place when it comes to that. So if I want to be able to modify my bike, if I want to be able to get a used seat that's in great condition and not pay $600 for a seat and pay $300 for you still can only do that with a Harley Dyna. So I wouldn't be anywhere near the new Indian, even though, from what I can see, it's a beautiful bike. I would be waiting until the aftermarket people were picking up on this, because with a Dyna, maybe you buy I know somebody that I believe bought a used switchback. I mean, they went online, they have their image in their head, you know, a friend of mine, he has this image in his head of what he wants his bike to look like. He goes online, and in an hour or two, he's ordered everything he needs to make his switchback into some new thing that you'd never even be able to recognize without really knowing Harleys well, what the bike was originally. And the parts come in, and he takes the old stuff off, puts the new stuff on, and he's got this amazing new bike. And you simply could not do what he did without buying all brand new parts that are overpriced, and might not be exactly what you're looking for directly from Indian if you were to purchase the Chieftain. So you would kind of have to like the Chieftain's possibilities as is. You know, I can get this bobber and I can build it up to that touring scenario that they offer, and that's about it. Also, every single thing I do will cost me premium money. I'm not trading anybody for parts. I'm not going to a local shop that has, you know, I talked about this in my last video on would I buy the current Mustang seat that I had. I'm not going to a local place that's like, you know, their thing is to sell used Harley parts and trade them and pay them maybe $20 and get a new this or that. That only still exists for the Dyna, and it's going to be that way, you know, for a couple of years. So that's still, you know, it's still a problem in the eyes of a hardcore Harley fan. If you were to ask me, that in order to buy a Dyna, I have to go to Indian Motorcycles. But that being said, I would not buy Indian's version of that, the Chieftain, unless I absolutely was like, I can't even, it's perfect, exactly the way it is. Then I would buy it. So that's my thoughts. I waited to weigh in on this, you know, because a lot of people were talking about it. But, you know, after I saw a bunch of videos, I didn't hear a bunch of people bringing up this point of view. That realistically, to ride a Dyna, you still have to buy a Dyna. Because people don't typically buy a Dyna and then leave it stock and ride it around. Sure, it happens, but it's not common. This is your boy G, and I am riding towards the beach through the Pine Barrens, and I will catch you on the flip side